Hello and welcome to MotorInc First. Once again, Shumi's been out and about. He seems to do it a lot more than me. Before we come to what we're going to talk about, I have to admit, of all the conversations we've had, this vehicle is the one that I know the least about. I know practically nothing about it.
Correct.
Starting with, is it River Indy or Indy River? I mean, which is the name of the motorcycle? Which is the company?
So the company's name is River, and their first product is called the Indy.
Okay. And how is it that it has landed up on MotorInc First, which means it's a fairly important vehicle? I mean, you've taken time out to go and ride it.
So we didn't know about River at all.
Right.
And they called us, and I think in February to come see the bike. And I think there were stories from other media houses around that time. We refused to go because they hadn't started production yet.
Right.
And remember, we were discussing how we don't want to do vehicles which are not in the final shape, because that story is just, it's like an evolving story, and we don't want to get involved in that mess. So they finished, they started producing the bike, and they said, would you like to come and ride the bike? But now that they've started producing the machines, what we rode were the first 20 bikes to come out of their factory.
Were they prototypes?
No, first production.
Okay.
So there are issues. We'll talk about the quality issues that you can see on these bikes, but they are the first production. So fine tuning will happen further. Quality level will improve. Some jigs and fixtures will be slightly retuned and stuff. But these are actual production bikes coming off their actual production line, not prototypes in any way.
Okay. I'm just going to say that the reason why I know of the River Indy, I got it right.
Yeah.
Okay. Is because I've seen pics of it.
Yeah.
I thought it looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Is it that good in the flesh?
So it's fantastic to me represents a classically good looking design. This is a very interesting design, so I can't really say fantastic, but is there anything else quite like it that we've ever seen before? Yeah, absolutely not.
Because I like that, Yamaha had done those whole series of industrial scooters that they had in Europe.
Yeah.
I love those. So I like that kind of stuff. And this kind of reminded me of those, that having a very functional but strong kind of feel to them. And that's what got my attention.
Yeah, in fact, I didn't know this, but one of the founders of River is the guy who apparently proposed the Navi scooter to Honda.
Oh,
and then that project got greenlit and the Navi got built. So he has design chops, as it were, right?
Oh, right.
And I think the idea of the Indy scooter, the reason why the company calls themselves River, according to them, is because rivers are a source of livelihood, etc., etc. And they want their scooters, electric vehicles for now, scooters for now, electric vehicles obviously, they want them to be the source of livelihood or the enabler of livelihood, as it were, for the audience that purchases them.
Okay.
So the approach to the Indy was the idea of a utility scooter. I mean, the only warning that I gave them is maybe you don't want to sell it as a utility scooter, because it's not a very sexy thing to sell, right?
Right.
Lifestyle would be a better...
Which is why we have so many SUVs, remember?
So, so the idea of the Indy is, for example, just to give you a sense of size, I know you're probably looking at a picture already on the screen, but it's a big scooter. Just to give you a reference, the Aerox is one of the largest scooters we've got. The Indy's wheelbase is 15 millimeters, even longer than that. So it sits on a really large wheelbase.
Okay.
But the large wheelbase is not an accident. It's a choice they made. Okay. So the 14-inch wheels are a choice they made. The large wheelbase is a choice they made, because they said if the vehicle is going to be a utility-oriented EV that fits into your life, then maybe making it small is not the best way to do this. Okay. So typically you'd want to see a 12-inch wheeled or a 10-inch wheeled EV because it's more efficient. Lighter wheels, etc., etc., etc. But if you're going to assume that this EV will be carrying loads, carrying people, moving around semi-urban areas, maybe even the fringes of the rural areas, right? Then it needs bigger wheels, because then you'll be reasonably better comfortable. But you put all of that together and you see that it had to be a large scooter, and that's what it is.
So it'll need more stability. I guess that's where the big
stability and space both.
Considering that it will carry loads.
Yeah, so when they were making the product presentation, they showed a slide which had 3 riders triangles.
Okay.
Saying if you sit furthest back in the seat and place your feet furthest back on the footboard, then you get a slightly sportier riding position, let's say. But then you can stretch yourself out and put your feet forward, and then you get a more cruiser-like position.
What do you mean push your feet out? I mean,
like forward. That's what I'm coming to. So exactly, my reaction was, what do you mean you have 3 riders triangles, right? How does that make any sense?
I mean, you just have the floorboard, right?
But they have a huge floorboard. And they have a long seat. So you do actually have the opportunity to move forward and backward quite a bit and find a way for you to sit. So the cutest thing they did was, the designer Vipin, he put his father's photographs in the presentation. And his father runs a rubber plantation in Kerala. And the inspiration for one of the utility functions of the Indy was the idea that his father takes a scooter, I can't remember what it was in the picture, but I think it was Dio, if I'm not mistaken.
I was just going to say, I don't know why I think it's a Dio.
So I think it's a Dio, and he basically they make rubber sheets, right? So they fold the sheets of rubber and load the footboards up. And Dad brings the thing back home loaded with rubber. And then Dad figured out if he puts a plank of wood across the floor, then he can put more rubber on it.
Right.
And he was like, why can't we design a scooter that does that natively?
Okay.
So the floorboard is longer than the average scooters.
Okay.
And the front is not vertical, it slopes up. So you get still more space. And then it becomes a glove box up there. And it's a 12-liter glove box. So it still has the inconvenience of having the steering stem in the middle. But it's still a large glove box.
Okay.
Underseat storage is 40 something liters. It's huge.
Full face helmet?
So I'll show you the picture of the Arai with the visor facing the back of the scooter. Then the seat doesn't close. But if you turn the helmet around and point the front of the helmet to the front of the scooter, then it does go in and the seat does close, which is a first. In 23 years, we've never had a seat close with a full face helmet in it. So that's a first. Yeah, so they have a massive amount of storage on the scooter.
Okay, sorry. We've spoken about, I mean, I was actually going to ask you, is it an EV or not? Are they going to do ICE as well or what?
No, I think it's pure EV.
Pure EV.
For sure.
Okay, so obviously the default question that was there was, is it Ather rival?
I think for the first time we can talk about an EV that is not going to be a direct Ather rival. It does many things at least as well as Ather does, but it doesn't produce the same imagery or feelings as the Ather does. And I'm not saying that it's an unpleasant scooter or the Ather is a pleasant scooter. I'm just saying they're just two dramatically different propositions. Let me give you an example. So this scooter has more performance on paper than the Ather. It has a larger battery pack than the Ather, slightly. I'm not saying massive difference, but there is a difference. It's obviously a heavier scooter and a much larger scooter than the Ather. But when you stick it in economy mode, it doesn't feel like, oh God, this is so boring, I need to go to the next mode. It feels like, yeah, I can work with this mode, it's okay. And they said, we didn't design economy to produce a great number with the ARAI test. We produced the economy mode to be as useful as possible so that you can stay in this mode. Have, I think it's 120 kilometers of range in the real world, 160 on the ARAI cycle. And you can have that range.
And this is an economy.
In economy without feeling like you're at a loss for acceleration or performance. It's got just enough. They've done it.
Right.
It feels just enough. Top speed in that mode itself is I think 50 or 60. So it's not slow. It's usable. But then you go to the next mode which they call ride. And ride obviously gives you a little bit more performance and a little bit more top speed at the expense of a little less range. It feels like there is a difference between ride and eco, but it doesn't feel like, I want to go faster. It again feels like a reasonably realistic mode that they've selected for a reasonable kind of use patterns. So we were north of Bengaluru, that's the airport. That's already 2 hours out of Bengaluru, right? We were another half an hour north of that. So the roads in that area are basically rural roads, and we were at the base of Nandi Hill, so you can go up the hill if you feel like. That's the condition we are riding in. And I was overtaking things and being overtaken by things, both depending on what was going on in the situation.
Riding up to Nandi Hill.
Yeah. I don't like that road too much, so I went up to the big U-turn and came back down because it gives you a sense of what the thing will be like. But the point is, I stayed in ride mode, whereas if I were riding an Ather, I'd probably immediately be in warp because it felt okay. It didn't promise to be a very fast scooter, but it never felt slow or out of sorts either. And then when I used rush mode, then obviously, which is their top mode, it felt even faster. But it didn't feel like a performance mode. It felt like a slightly more usable, higher performance mode.
Okay, I'm going to keep setting context here for people because like you, I'm in the same boat. I don't know what it feels like to ride. Compare it to the iQube.
The iQube is a family scooter. This is a workhorse.
So it is going to be pegged there.
See, the price wise,
because okay, I'll explain. Like Ather for me is, as much as I love and respect the Ather for what it is, right, for setting the benchmark and all of that, the scooter I've always told you that.
Okay, I'll set context for you. I'll set the context for you. Think of the iQube as a family sedan.
Okay.
Think of the Ather as a sporty sedan.
Okay.
Like a notchback at the back and a relatively slightly faster engine. This is sort of like the pickup truck, and I'm not saying SUV. This is like the pickup truck at the similar kind of price point.
Okay.
It's a workhorse, and it's designed to be a workhorse.
So it will be at a similar price. It's launched? I mean, I'm sorry.
It's launched. So what most EV startups do is they open this pre-booking thing and then they get trapped in that cycle.
Because you said they've started producing, you didn't say it's gone on sale.
Yeah.
So I was
So
just
what
wondering.
River did do was they opened bookings in February.
Okay.
As I understand it, they have a reasonably small number of bookings compared to the 10,000 and 30,000 and all the drama that goes on. So they have a reasonably small number of bookings. So in that sense, I think they have a smaller problem to deal with because FAME subsidies have changed the game completely post their announcing the price. So as I understand it, River will hold the 1,25,000 price, including FAME subsidies that they promised for the 1,000 people who've booked from Bengaluru, that they can.
Okay.
That's their first city that they're attacking. Their expansion plan is still it's a work in progress.
Oh, so right now it's only available in Bangalore.
Right now it will be only available in Bengaluru for the near future, right? Those first 1,000 people will definitely get it at 125. So River is being gracious, I think, and doing the right thing by absorbing that loss. Fair. And I think in that price is a 800 watt charger also included. So they're also not debundling the charger and pulling a fast one on you either. Later the charger will be a separately priced unit, etc. We'll talk about it in detail. The next bunch of customers from Bengaluru will not have access to this price. And River has not announced that price yet.
Alright.
My assumption is 25 to 30,000 rupees more at least. So this will become, let's call it a 1,55,000 rupee scooter. Which more or less is in the same ballpark, give or take 10,000-15,000 rupees of the Ather and the iQube. But to me, if you take 3 test rides, the Ather will clearly be like the sporty, premium, slightly flashy scooter in comparison. The iQube will clearly be the family scooter. And this will be, it'll feel like the workhorse. Is it as cool and futuristic as the Ather or as sharp? No. Is it as family-like and unisex appeal? No. But does it have its own distinct personality? Absolutely.
So would you let's say, you want something to have fun in the city? Would it still do the job?
No, I think it's a workhorse.
It is.
It is a workhorse. And I'm telling you how clear that workhorse thing is in this scooter is epic. I mean, I love the idea of it in the sense of they went to make a workhorse and they ended up making a workhorse. So is it cool in that way? You know how pickup trucks are cool?
Yeah.
I feel like the scooter is cool like that. We can have differences of color and why did they do the headlight like this? We can have that discussion of detail.
Right.
But it feels like that.
Okay.
And as strange as SUV of scooters is how their initial campaign was, I think pickup of scooters would be a more natural campaign, but except that pickups in India are very small segments, it doesn't make sense to say it. So they're saying SUV of scooters. But I think it's not actually false, it's actually true.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. So I was really, really happy and surprised by how innately it is a work-oriented scooter. So it's got these little square things on the side, which you would have noticed in the photographs earlier also. They are a plastic panel, but onto that mounts a small pannier mount.
Right.
And they'll be selling you panniers that you can add load capacity with.
So this would be, let's say, ideal for companies that are doing deliveries, like all these.
I think that they're targeting individuals who run small businesses more than B2B organizations, because I still think remember, it's an expensive scooter. It's not like the Bounce or something that is made to be cheap, so you can bung it into various systems. This is, I'm saying, look, there was a picture there which I'm going to use as a reference because it's convenient, but there was a picture of a very, very well-dressed carpenter.
Okay.
Let's take the well-dressed out because Indian carpenters generally don't get to dress that well. We have not reached that stage of where the standard of living is that high. But I immediately understood that there are foot pegs on the side of the footboard that you can fold out for the rider. I think they're a little forward set.
Oh, that's the stretched out seating position that you're talking about?
No, you can do it on the footboard itself. There's that much space, but there's also a set of foot pegs folded into the bodywork.
Okay.
So if you open those foot pegs out, then you'll release the entire footboard for stuff. So a carpenter carrying stuff to a place where he's going to work can easily load 1, 2, 3, 4 bags of stuff between his legs and still have a secure footing for his feet. You know how we ride with half a shoe on the... You don't have to do that because you have foot pegs for that, right? That photograph also had a bunch of planks which were cam strapped to the pannier mount.
Okay.
Okay, how much it sticks out of the scooter and all that discussion we can have, but it's a realistic scenario. You could do that.
Wow, it sounds really functional.
Yeah, so that's what I enjoyed about this scooter. So do I agree with all the design choices they've made? No. For example, that headlight is very distinctive. But it's on a floating panel which is mounted to the scooter's front apron. It looks good and it's black on black, so you don't notice the float. But as soon as you
realize that.
but as soon as you go close, you realize there is a gap there, which means cleaning that gap it's not big enough for your fingers to go in. So how are you going to clean it? It's going to be a problem, right? But as a thing, you will notice the river coming through because nothing else looks like it, and it's big. So in the front, if you look at the structure, the front apron, it's not trying to be tiny at all. It's huge.
Wow, I'm genuinely taken aback that it's so focused and it's sounding so honest.
I loved it. I loved it for that. Like, did I have a great ride on it? No. But did I put one to one together saying, if I were to be this kind of individual, like the carpenter example I gave you. So if I were that person and that was my profession, would the scooter not just fit into my life? I could totally see it happen. Right? Obviously, the underseat storage isn't transparent, but if I were that carpenter and I had 2 bags on the floorboard and planks mounted to the side of my scooter, I still have 44 liters of storage under the seat to play with.
Right.
The only problem there is 14-inch wheels means there is an intrusion into the thing. So the whole floor is A, sloped, and B, there is a curve for the fender, which protrudes inward. So it's not as useful a space as Ola's flat crate kind of thing, but it's still a massive amount of space.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So have they spoken about versions?
Not yet. So far, there's just 3 indies in 3. That's in 3 colors. So you get the red one and this blue one that you're seeing on the screen and a yellow one.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm taken aback again.
Yeah, so super bright colors. So you come out in Bengaluru, cloudy morning, and everybody's wondering whether it'll be stay overcast, will it start raining, how will the shoot go, and all of this. And there's like these 3 really bright colored scooters parked outside. It's very cute. So I'm sure eventually they will have to do the basic black. They'll have to do the silver or gray and the maroon that Indians have to have in their lives, right? We are slowly changing our color palette. But at the moment,
So refreshing. I don't know. I'm just going on processing. I mean, they're focused on this purpose-oriented segment, market buyer.
yeah, and what I loved about it is when they made their presentation, which was mercifully very short, it was also all about how they solved the idea of a work scooter rather than a family scooter or a male scooter or a sporty scooter or a premium scooter. It's a work scooter. So there's some very interesting things in there. They've added brake pressure sensors on both the brakes.
Okay.
Which you will see in the photographs as a silver cylinder. And I asked them, why does it have to be silver? They said, yeah, that doesn't need to be silver. But the brake pressure sensor allows them to do a whole bunch of small changes to how the regen is working, for example.
Okay.
Right? So they've set up regen in 3 different ways for their 3 different modes. With the idea being, I don't want you to disconnect from the ICE experience. So when you roll off the throttle, the scooter starts to slow down. It slows down a lot in economy mode. It slows down less in ride mode, and it slows down even less in rush mode.
One sec. You can actually clearly feel it working?
Yeah. So I wouldn't say one-to-one ICE experience, but it's there.
Well, that would be a first then.
Yeah. And it's flawless. Like there's no throttle calibration glitches. You open the throttle, it goes. When you close the throttle, it slows.
I kind of just assume that it's fine to ride because you didn't say anything about any of these things up until.
No, so I'm saying here's the idea they presented, and then look at how well they executed it. Because it was a very, very, very nice shock. Because you close the throttle and you can see the regen at work, and you can make the connection saying, okay, so the imagined engine braking would feel like this, and that's how they've tuned it. So rush approaches the 2-stroke zone where it's like you close it and it just sort of rolls on, but it's actually still slowing down. And in economy mode, it actually slows down. Is it one throttle only operation? No, they haven't been silly about it. But there is regen and you can feel it working, and I think it's great. I don't think regen is very valuable on its own in terms of percentages of what you recover from the scooter, but as a way of tuning a fairly complicated system, opening throttle and closing throttle both work.
Yeah.
They haven't disconnected the brake.
Which isn't
the case. Yeah, which isn't common enough. I think it's something we've complained about long and volubly, right? When you touch the brake, the motor's still on and going, so you can make U-turns.
Okay. So what are the issues? Man, this sounds almost too good to be true in my head.
So because these were not production machines, obviously there were fit and finish issues here and there. So for example, there's a crash bar built into the front apron.
Okay.
So if you fall, there is a metal pipe already there to absorb the impact.
So it really has like a crash bar?
It has a little crash bar, yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And the crash bar is a tube that goes into the frame. So they left holes on the plastic.
Okay.
But the holes and the tube aren't the same diameter yet because they're still fine-tuning tolerances. So there's a rubber beading and stuff, but you can put your finger between the tube and the rubber beading and the plastic. So I would fine-tune that so that it appears like the tube and the hole are the same size. It would just improve the quality of your experience. The side stand sensor is a gold-colored nut.
Yes.
But the whole thing down there is black. So I go straight to that thing, why is that thing gold?
Right.
The panel above the side stand has the hook where you get your boot into it, right? It's sort of difficult to find, but you never miss it. But the panel above that flexes out of the way of your boot as you... So you're like, oh, quality. And then you realize that's the only panel that flexes. But when you talk to them, they say we are aware of that feeling and we are trying to figure out how to solve that.
It's not tacky flimsy.
No, it's not tacky flimsy. It's reasonably well made. I wouldn't say that it is a premium grade scooter.
That's fine.
It's well made.
Yeah.
Okay, the LCD screen had shadows.
You remember the Honda scooter that had come, which was supposed to be like this.
The
click.
Click.
You remember how the click just looked like it had faded?
Yeah,
Right?
day one.
Yeah, like brand new, it looked like it had faded.
Like the brand new blue looked old and the brand new red looked old.
So those plastics felt like they were leftovers.
Not like
right?
that. No, not the river. That's why I'm saying they really have put in a lot of
I
work.
have to find something. Suspension.
Okay, so this is a heavy payload scooter by design. Okay, so they're saying what we have homologated payload as, we are aware that the customer is probably going to overload it and set it up for that. So get this, it's a 42 front fork on an EV.
Wow.
With a double rated spring. The rear is a triple rated spring. These are both gas charged.
Okay.
And I was like, really? And they said, but we didn't want it to feel out of sorts just because you were in this zone or that zone, depending on whether you're alone or with people and luggage or whatever. So we tuned it for all of this. So the suspension setup become quite complicated, and they're quite proud of what they've done. And it's a really complicated amount of suspension to have on a fairly simple EV. So when you go out and hit the potholes, it's not a surprise that it actually does a pretty decent job of absorbing them. Plus, you've got 14-inch wheels, so anyway, it doesn't take as much notice as a 12-inch wheel would. Because remember, if you take the size of the bump and the diameter of wheel as a ratio to each other, the larger the wheel is, the better the bump is absorbed anyway. That's pure physics. So just by moving to 14, they've got an advantage. Then they put great suspension on it. So on smooth roads, it feels nice, but it feels nice in a sporty way. It's firm. But when you hit a pothole, it's not jarring and shaking. There is some amount of it.
It's not the SR.
No, it's not. It's not. So when I started seeing bad stretches of roads, I didn't really back off much after that. Because I had a feeling saying it'll handle it. Did you hear some plasticky noises? Yes. But even they, I think, were lower than normal.
Okay.
Right? I did rattle off one screw inside the glove box. There are 4 mounting screws. One of them fell back into the glove box by the time I finished with it. So I did punish it. But did I feel like it was falling apart at the end? Not even a little.
Does it have a touchscreen?
No. And the LCD has shadows that move across it right now.
What?
Yeah, so on the left, there are 3 tabs which light up in 3 different colors to show you economy mode, ride mode, and rush mode. And now and then you'll see a black shadow cross over it. You know how in the Alien films, when the spaceship arrives, a shadow move across? It's sort of similar. And I noticed it within the first kilometer of riding, so I went back and said what's going on. She says, so that LCD screen is a T0, which means it's an early production unit, and they're working with the vendor to get a better quality and brighter screen, which was my other criticism with that screen, saying maybe this needed to be brighter because it's sticking out there in the open. There's no shadow on it, so it does look a little dull in sunlight. But they are aware of both issues and they're working on both issues, and they didn't feel like people who were saying things for the sake of saying them. They felt like they're actually working on it.
Does it have maps?
No, basic.
USB charging port.
USB charging port is there. So there is actually 2 screws which are going to be used to make a phone mount. And I said, you're making a phone mount, you should put a vibration damper on it. They said, yes, we are working on it. We are aware of the damping issues. So
I'm getting annoyed, River.
So so you know what they could have done? It's like a fake clip-on bar, the handlebar. So it's naked. There's a screen sticking out in front of it, and there's a flat panel in the middle, which is just begging for a River logo to arrive, and it's just blank.
Okay.
So that's one thing I would change. It would, I think, improve the experience a little bit. Is put a little River logo there instead of having this blank steel grey panel staring back at you. No touchscrreen. And honestly, it's not a that functional feature-loaded scooter in that sense. So, did we have a discussion about Bluetooth 5.0, multi-point Bluetooth, geofencing? No, we didn't.
No swappable batteries.
No swappable batteries. It's a large battery pack. It's under the floorboard and it's done. But
fast charging?
Wait, but it's a repairable battery. So I said, what the hell is a repairable battery?
Sorry.
Right? Yeah. I said the same. Would you use a repairable battery? He says, look, if a cell goes bad, the amount of work it takes to replace that cell, you might as well get the new battery pack. Correct. So we are not doing that. But the battery has other components like, say, a PCB. Right. And if you manage to fry a PCB, you shouldn't have to throw your battery away. Right. You should be able to replace the PCB. So they've built their battery pack in a way that allows them to work on the battery pack if you have smaller issues like this, while doing the other stuff, which is crash protection and drop protection and voltage protection and all of those things. Okay. But they've said, no, our battery pack, we can repair some parts of it. It's not open and shut case. Right?
Okay.
Similarly, it's an air-cooled motor, but I didn't have a single overheat warning no matter what I tried. I did have chances where the performance started to tail off a little bit and you could feel it. But you stay in rush mode till 0 if you feel like. I think till 10% it doesn't bother you. You want to be in rush, you be in rush. So I actually rode it down to 1 kilometer of range left. And basically at the end I was just circling the block where the scooter was supposed to be parked. Beyond flashing the state of charge at you, it didn't do anything else.
Okay.
I never got a heat warning at all. Cool day out in the wilderness. So it shouldn't have given a heat warning anyway, but I'd gotten no signs that the scooter was in any kind of complaint.
But you were in rush as well, so you were using it fully in that.
Dude, I was on open road, so I was basically max throttle most of the time. So imagine riding 70 odd kilometers, 65, 70 kilometers.
Okay.
Imagine riding 70 kilometers more or less at full throttle the whole time. Up slope, down slope, nothing. So can I say that the thermal management is A-OK? No, not yet. We've not tested it in enough conditions. But is the promise of A-OK right there on the table? So it's a very difficult story to find flaws in that sense, because I'm telling you that since we rode the first Athers and came back impressing, they've got most parts of the system working. This is the second time it's happened to us.
You guys are spoiling the name of EV startups here.
No, the rest of them are. No, I honestly telling you, it's like they said
They're
simple.
not promising the next product when they've only launched the first product.
They're saying, yeah, first product, we've just started selling. How to do the next product, we don't know how this mechanism works. I think they're trying to figure it out.
I think I want a short wheelbase version of this very same thing, maybe with fewer of the strap-on.
No, I'm going to hope that Arvind and Vipin are listening. They're the founders of the company, and they get us the bike for testing as soon as possible, because I really do want you guys to test it out and see what you think about it. Because it is large, it doesn't feel like it, and it corners.
Right.
So I went up the Nandi Hills section. At no point did I feel
So I don't need a shorter wheelbase version then.
No, you'd be fine. Because I didn't feel like I needed something more compact or more sporty. I was happy to kick it around. And remember, 14-inch wheels make a big difference. So it is stable. I mean, yeah, okay.
Oh, nice.
So it's a rural road, right? So there's people going to work on their relatively small commuters and stuff. And then this thing comes around the corner going like this, and they were like double takes, like the whole time. Wow. So I passed a whole bunch of villages on the way. And people would be stopped and saying, what is that thing that went by? Because it's huge. I mean, from the scooter standpoint. So I really enjoyed riding it. I really enjoyed the conversation we had about it. Here are the challenges that they have, right? They've only just begun production. It's a huge factory though, 120. They have a capacity of, I think, 1 lakh units or something already. So it's not a small factory. They have a huge R&D center. From the numbers, at least I haven't seen it. But the photographs that they showed of the scooter being validated in testing, all the rigs and jigs, I think they have a pretty impressive setup in that sense. So they've put in the work. Right, they're going to start by opening one company dealership in Bengaluru. I think it's in JP Nagar if you're from Bengaluru, and that helps. And that will be the template for all the other dealerships that will come in. And it is a dealership-centric model. You'll service the scooter 2 times a year. Once is inspection. The second time is an actual go visit, and then they'll check the brake pads and the fluids and whatever. The 3 kilowatt charger will be the optional purchase, 20 grand odd, and that's 1.5 hours to 80%. Whereas the standard 800 watts, I think, is 5 hours to 80%. So they've got lots of these things in place. But is there a subscription program for service? Not sure yet. Are you going to be able to fast charge it on a public charging infrastructure? Not clear yet. So a lot of the components of this are still out there. I think fundamentally product, engineering, idea and execution, 4 things have lined up. Yeah, the only thing that we haven't talked about is the fact that the batteries are NMC. Technically NCA, it's aluminium, not M, but not LFP yet, is the only thing that they could have possibly done better. Obviously that means it will be heavier and whatever. But yeah, and the only inconvenience I can see is that the charging ports release is a pull tab inside the glove compartment, which makes it lockable obviously. But that means you have to take the key out, open the glove compartment, pull the thing, and then that thing opens.
Okay.
Just not going to be convenient. And nobody has been able to build an onboard charger yet. Neither have these guys. So if you're going to travel around and want to charge somewhere where you are, you'll need to take the 800 watt charger with you. I'm assuming the 3 kilowatt charger will be too large to carry around. Technically, the scooter still has space, so you might be able to manage. Accessories, you've got the panniers. They've also got a set of railings that you can mount to the floorboard and turn it into a storage space. Because you've got foot pegs, remember?
Dude.
Yeah, you've got foot pegs. The only thing I'd change on the foot pegs is they stick out so little from the bodywork that they're a little hard to flick out.
Okay.
Right? And obviously because they're like that, you're eventually going to scuff that body panel. So they're wondering if they need to put a beading there or something.
Or just push to release type something. pop
Something.
out.
I mean, I just put PPF there and then I never think about it again. Utility, remember. But yeah, and for shooting, it was very simple because you've got the pannier mount at the back and the crash bar in the front. So you've got GoPro mounts wherever you feel like it, at least for filming. So it does work. What I would change is the mirrors, maybe.
Okay.
They're kind of close. I wish they were a little bit farther out. So you'd see a little bit more of what's going on behind you a little bit easier. We don't know what the headlights power is like. They're identifiable headlights for sure. We don't know if they're powerful or not, obviously.
Yes.
But tell me this, now I want to ask you this. How does the idea of a utility scooter as a third proposition from the premium and the family sound to you?
You know, when you started talking about it, I was getting slightly, like, okay, so this isn't something that, I would consider then, right? Because it's functional. Not that that puts me off, right? But it just seemed like,
It's not sexy.
to me, it looks, okay, not sexy, but it looks attractive. I like it, right? So it already had my attention.
Yeah.
But then when you were talking about it being so purpose built, so it's like how I like pickups, right? I like pickups, but do I see a pickup in my garage anytime now? It's because I just think that I
What
don't
will
really
actually do with it?
need
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's where the conversation was going, that it's an honest vehicle, it's doing what it's supposed to, and which is why I thought that, okay, I need the short wheelbase one because this will be a bit big and cumbersome, maybe, in that sense. And then you said it's fun, and you said the suspension's good.
Yeah.
I said it's not getting compromised by its purpose on that front. Then suddenly my interest went back up.
Yeah,
Like,
and you know what I enjoyed about it? I was thinking about it later on the flight back. I was like, did I ever think I was going very fast like you do on the Ather sometimes? Like when the Ola's battery is not overheated like the Ola can feel. No. Did I feel like I was getting bored though? No, it felt okay.
And I'm telling you, I'm an iQube guy. I love the iQube.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So for me, that it's not that quick and exciting is not a problem at all. I love that calm consistency of as much. I love the warp on the Ather for sure. But the comfort and ease of the iQube, I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
So when you said the suspension is great, because in my head, I'd kind of chalked off the suspension saying that, okay, if it's meant to do so much wooky stuff, then that's going to be a compromise. But then you said no. Then you said the handling is good. Then I was like, okay, then what's wrong with it?
Yeah.
It's also in the same price ballpark as the others. So what's the catch? We keep coming back to that, right?
I mean, contrast this to Simple One, for example.
Right.
We saw 3 prototypes and we still haven't seen the final production version yet. Wait till
The side panel is terrible.
Wait till the pink one comes out. Yeah, and the variant will be called the Anna Jones. It'll be the River Indiana Jones. No, but what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that it's the best thing I've ever seen.
No.
I am saying my expectations from the EV startup ecosystem are so low today that this scooter doing what they say it does in itself, I think, is a big achievement. For a company that has not spent the last 10 months telling us all versions of their story, they basically said nothing. I mean, honestly, I have had no communication.
I'm telling you, I knew nothing about it.
I have had no communication from River since we said no in February. They've said nothing to us. And I was speaking to them yesterday and they said, actually, we see the communication problem. And we didn't want to open our mouth and say stuff that we weren't able to deliver. So it's actually pretty good that you didn't come for that event and came for this one, because now whatever I'm saying, you can see. If I say it's 100, you can see that it's 100. I'm not making any of it up.
It's like the under promise, over deliver.
What's going to happen is we do want an Indy for test.
Yeah.
So that we actually put it through its paces and see what it's like in the environments that we normally test in and see how it functions together.
Yeah.
But I can say this unequivocally. If you remember, in the Charisma MotorInc First, he had asked me, so how did it feel? And I said, it's definitely better than nice. I'm saying this might be 3, 4, 5 notches beyond that.
And its screen has ghosts.
For now. For now, yeah.
Okay.
You know the funny parts, the segments on the screen, they're supposed to be white, right? You know what the ghosts are like? They're various grays. So let's say it's at 25 kmph on the speedo, right? So various segments of the 25 blink in and out. So it's sort of working at you.
It's a feature.
It's a feature.
It's a feature. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any more questions about the River Indy, do let us know in the comments. And as usual, Shumi will do his thing.
Thank you so much.